Hi there, my name is Anime Addiction and this will be my first reaction video to the popular series known as Death Battle. Now you're asking, what is Death Battle? Well, Death Battle is when two characters from any kind of media such as comic books, video games, or movies and whatnot here are pitted against each other using only their skills and fighting to the absolute death to answer the age-old question, who would win in a death battle? First of all, let's start off with the basic rules of death battle. Rule number 1. The combatants will have no prior knowledge of each other's skills, powers, or weaknesses. This is to ensure that there will be no unfair advantage between the two of them before the battle. Rule number 2. The combatants are completely on their own. There will be no help or support whatsoever, either from sidekicks or any other source, so that they will have to use their own skills, their own weapons, and whatever tactics they have to their fullest. Finally, any restrictions the character may or may not have against killing are removed so that they will fight to their absolute best and to the death. Now, I'm going to add my own little rule to this reaction video. If your favorite character does bite the big one, don't take it personally. Death Battle is meant to be fun. It's meant to poke fun and to make us laugh, to make us think, and to also give us some good entertainment. And that's the real reason for Death Battle in the first place. Now for the first episode, we will be focusing on the duel between Chun-Li from Street Fighter and Mai Shiranui from the King of Fighters and Fatal Fury series. There has been a lot of debate over the result of this particular death battle, and I'm going to throw in my 2 cents worth as to how I thought the battle game came out and my opinion on the winner. Now, since this is a reaction video, I'm going to assume that the viewers have already seen this particular death battle. If not, please go to scroogeattack.com or click on the link below in the comments section in order to see the original so that you won't get spoiled. Now, first of all, I'm going to let the stars of Death Battle, Boomstick and Wizard, give the pre-battle analysis for both combatants, and then I will give my own analysis as well. That way, you'll be able to get all the information and not miss out on any important details from either of us. So, Boomstick and Wizard, take it away.
When it comes to fighting, combatants come in all shapes and sizes. And I'm liking the shapes and sizes on these two. Chun-Li, the strongest woman in the world. Mai Shiranui, the queen of fighters. He's Boomstick and I'm Wizard, and it's our job to analyze their weapons, armor, and skills to find out who would win a death battle. Chun-Li, first lady of the fighting game. Famous for abusing the Thigh Master. Chun-Li is a detective for Interpol and has gone through rudimentary police combat training. She is also trained with Gen, a friend of her father's and legend of the Chinese fighting underworld. But she never did finish her training with him. Does anyone ever finish their training? Seriously. Well, I guess it's not totally her fault. After Bison killed her dad, Gen just kinda disappeared on her. What a dick. Since then, Chun-Li's been chasing after Bison for vengeance. She is trained in defensive Tai Chi and is skilled in a fast-paced kickboxing variant of Kenpo. She prefers speed over strength, using a combination of rapid strikes to pressure an opponent. And if you can't tell by looking at them, her legs are pretty damn powerful. She can even kick people through solid brick. Still, her strength doesn't just lie in those legs. She's strong enough to toss things around as big as a couch. Her main attacks include the unbelievably fast lightning legs, the unpredictable axe kick, and the physics-defying spinning bird kick. I wouldn't mind taking a ride on that helicopter. She can also focus her natural ki energy to create the Kokoken, a slow, limited ranged attack. And the Kokosho is basically a super version of that. An enormous ball of energy strong enough to stop a speeding car. Her detective skills were instrumental in taking down the criminal organization Shadaloo, and after the tournaments, Chun-Li became a martial arts teacher. However, she has yet to win any major tournament and failed to kill Bison to avenge her father. She was able to rescue one of her students from Urien, but turns out Urien let her win, wanting only to test her skills.
Also, it seems Chun ends up having to be rescued a lot, usually by Guile.
Oddly enough, her most notable award is placing 6th in an international shooting competition, despite rarely carrying a gun.
Well, I guess things wouldn't be too fair if she brought a gun to a street fight. Round 1, bang! Winner!
Despite this, Chun-Li is certainly capable of holding her own, and has consistently proven to be one of the toughest contenders in the Street Fighter tournaments.
You ready for this?
Mai Shiranui is, well...
Holy crap, look at those things!
Mai is a ninja of the Shiranui clan and has been trained by both her grandfather and the perverted yet famously deadly Jubei Yamada.
He brought a whole new meaning to wax on, wax off.
She has extensive training in the Shiranui Ryu fighting styles. From her grandfather, Mai learned the Koboken technique, specializing in pressure points and bone snapping. With Jubei, Mai trained in close combat judo.
Mai's pretty fast, but focuses on single, powerful strikes to punch through an enemy's defenses. The only downside to this is if she misses one, she's left wide open.
Her Flying Squirrel Furiante and Deadly Ninja B attacks help her control the field of battle, and she uses clever fake-outs to trip up her foe.
And she has an unlimited amount of steel fans she can throw, which I guess she keeps in her non-existent bra.
That's right.
Really? I was just making a joke about her giant boobs.
Speaking of her outfits,
or lack thereof,
while it's unrestrictive, it isn't exactly form-fitting either. However, as a testament to her training and balance, it doesn't seem to bother her. She wears it for kunoichi, a female ninja method of centrally distracting the foe before striking.
No, I'm sorry, what? I was distracted.
Never mind.
Okay, Mai can create fire and explosions, and she can control whatever fire she's created.
Mai consistently enters the King of Fighters tournaments to support her self-proclaimed fiancé, Andy Bogard. However, she has yet to win any major tournament, nor has she ever made a great impact in taking down the bosses.
Or taking down Andy.
She always does well though, even joining Andy's award-winning team in 1999.
Even so, she ends up having to be rescued a lot, usually by Andy. But for some reason, I don't seem to mind.
Mai Shiranui of the Shiranui School must teach you a lesson.
Alright, the combatants are set. Let's end this debate once and for all.
And in honor of Mai's Double D's, here's a PSA from the NCAA Double D.
The National Campaign Against Drunk Driving.
Boomstick and Wiz, you two are absolutely hilarious, and those analyses for both combatants were great. Now, here's my take on both Mai Shiranui and Chun-Li. Let's start with Chun-Li. As stated in your analysis, Chun-Li specializes in fast strikes and does have the ability to project her ki energy in a slow-moving and limited-range fireball called the Kikoken, as well as a high-powered Kikosho. Her legs are incredibly strong and fast, and she is able to deliver a flurry of speed and to pressure an opponent, which is good, very good indeed. However, what wasn't mentioned in your analysis was the fact that aside from that Kikoken, Chun-Li's abilities are mostly close quarters combat, and that may be a problem in this death battle because Chun-Li's main way of fighting is to get in close and get in hits. And that's going to be a problem against those with faster projectiles or any anti-air attacks, because her tactic would be to simply jump in and use her speed to overpower her opponent. And that may be a problem for Chun-Li. Now, I'm not saying that Chun-Li is completely disadvantaged in this death battle. Her spinning bird kick and other maneuvers are quite powerful, and also she is very disciplined, and she is a martial arts instructor now, so that shows that she has determination and drive. So therefore, she's going to be a very tough opponent for Mai Shiranui to beat. Now, in other cases here, she has also taken part in several turns, even though she has not even won any turns, and it was mentioned in the analysis that she did fail to defeat Bison, and that may or may not be a factor in this fight, but it is a good thing to point out. Now, we'll switch over to Mai Shiranui. Sexy looks aside, Mai Shiranui is actually a very capable fighter, and in addition to her fists and feet, she can also attack using the steel-edged fans, in which she can either hit, block, or cut with those razor-sharp edges. She can also power up any part of her clothing and her fans with her pyrokinesis, causing fire and explosions. She has both close quarters combat with Jubei Yamada using judo, and the throwing projectiles, as well as many different anti-air attacks to counter anyone who wants to jump in against her. Now, she does have a weakness toward missing her attacks and then leaving her wide open. But then again, if any of her high impact attacks work, it's going to take off a lot of damage and cause Mai to take control of the battle. She's also got her fake outs, and even though her so-called central distraction may not work against Chun-Li, on the other hand, it can also cause Chun-Li to underestimate her opponent, thinking her as a whore when in actuality she's a very formidable fighter. Now, as to who I would think would win in this death battle based on just this analysis and the analysis given to us by Boomstick and Wiz, I'm afraid that I would have to give the win to Mai Shiranui. Why? Because I feel that Mai Shiranui has more options to work with. She has both long and short range attacks, as well as her fake outs, and also her ninja training can make her much more unpredictable than Chun-Li. Now, I'm not saying that Chun-Li is not going to put up a good fight, because she definitely will put up a good fight. After all, she's supposedly the strongest woman in the world and all that. But in the end, I believe that Mai Shiranui will be able to take the win. So, let's find out if I'm right by restarting this death battle. Take it away, Boomstick and Wiz.
Fight!
Chun-Li may be a bit tougher and quicker than Mai, and her professional training even prepared her for the fake-out ruse. However, her arsenal pales in comparison to that of Mai's. With her pyrokinesis and steel fans, Mai had superior ranged and energy-based attacks.
And while Chun's a beast in close quarters combat, her straightforward approach was a bad matchup against Mai's ninja training.
It was certainly a close match, but Mai's nimbleness and firepower eventually won out.
Chun-Li's never looked hotter.
The winner is Mai Shiranui.
Now that was a great death battle, and I wasn't expecting Mai to finish off Chun-Li by using a scorpion from Mortal Kombat fatality on her. However, since Street Fighter, Fatal Fury, and King of Fighters don't have any fatality moves, I guess the creators at Death Battle had to use their imagination in order to finish this fight. Now then, before we go into the final analysis, there are a couple of issues about this death battle that I need to bring up. And the first issue is something that Boomstick himself had mentioned during the pre-battle analysis.
Mai's pretty fast, but focuses on single, powerful strikes to punch through an enemy's defenses. The only downside to this is if she misses one, she's left wide open.
Sorry about this, Boomstick, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to call you out on this one. Why? Because of what happened in the death battle itself.
Fight!
In both instances, it was Chun-Li and not Mai who missed a powerful strike and therefore was left wide open for Mai Shiranui to counterattack. So saying that Mai's weakness of missing an attack and leaving her wide open is actually a phenomenon called the double-edged sword. In other words, it is applicable to both combatants. So saying that only for Mai is actually an inaccuracy. Now, the second issue I'd like to put out is actually a frequent comment that is shown up on the official Death Battle website by Chun-Li fans who have been protesting endlessly about her loss to Mai Shiranui. Basically, the Chun-Li fans are all saying the same thing. Chun-Li won all the tournaments and she beat M. Bison. She's got way more experience. She should have won. Well, apparently these Chun-Li fans had missed the pre-battle analysis, which states the complete opposite of their argument, or they're pretty much not acknowledging it to begin with.
Down the criminal organization Shadaloo, and after the tournaments, Chun-Li became a martial arts teacher. However, she has yet to win any major tournament and failed to kill Bison to avenge her father. She was able to rescue one of her students from Urien, but turns out Urien let her win.
I believe the reason why the fans are bringing up this argument is because they had played Chun-Li through the games and had gotten their own personalized ending. In other words, the character's own ending itself. And this does not pertain to the mainstream in which I believe the winner of the original tournaments was Akuma, but you can check it out on their Street Fighter website in order to be sure. But I know for a fact that it wasn't Chun-Li who won the tournament. Otherwise, Boomstick and Wiz wouldn't have stated all those facts about her not winning the tournament and not killing Bison. Now then, as for experience, well, here's a listing of all the games that Chun-Li has participated in and all the games that Mai she has participated in, not counting the Capcom vs. SNK series where they both compete in, because that would be kind of like, that is not considered canon. They look pretty equal to me. And now we have the third issue that I need to point out, and this is also toward the Chun-Li fans, stating that Chun-Li is faster, stronger, and better than Mai simply because they have played against Mai using Chun-Li and using all of her strengths versus all of Mai's weaknesses. I'm sorry to say that is also an invalid argument. This is what is called as player input. It is the player who is controlling Chun-Li. It is the player who is setting up the strategies in order to defeat Mai. It is the player who is in full control of the character itself. And unfortunately, that goes against the basic rules of Death Battle. Now, you do remember the first rule of Death Battle, right? The characters will have no prior knowledge of each other's strengths and weaknesses before the death battle. Now, if the player uses this knowledge and knowing how to defeat his opponent, then that means he is in violation of the first rule of Death Battle. And therefore, his argument saying, I know how to beat Mai and all that other stuff, is not valid, because that means you have prior knowledge of how it works. And in Death Battle, that's not allowed. The characters are put on their own with no help at all, or no knowledge at all of their opponent. And that goes to the second rule of Death Battle as well. In Death Battle, the characters can only fight using their skills, weapons, and tactics from their official sources, and no outside influence, such as player input. And therefore, the battle that you see on the series is an extrapolation of all the research done by the creators of the Death Battle itself. Now then, as for the final analysis, the big question is, do I agree with the winner of this particular death battle? And the answer is, yes I do, for the following reasons that was stated in the final analysis by Boomstick and Wizard.
Boom's win!
Chun-Li may be a bit tougher and quicker than Mai, and her professional training even prepared her for the fake-out ruse. However, her arsenal pales in comparison to that of Mai's. With her pyrokinesis and steel fans, Mai had superior ranged and energy-based attacks.
And while Chun's a beast in close quarters combat, her straightforward approach was a bad matchup against Mai's ninja training.
It was certainly a close match, but Mai's nimbleness and firepower eventually won out.
Chun-Li's never looked hotter.
The winner is Mai Shiranui.
Now, before the Chun-Li fans begin their protest against the result of the death battle, why don't we have a look at those statements, shall we? First of all, let's check out the arsenal of both combatants, starting with Chun-Li's. As stated in the pre-battle analysis, Chun-Li focuses on fast strikes, foregoing powerful hits in order to pressure the opponent. Now, this means that her arsenal consists mainly of punches, kicks, and ki projectiles, as well as using her speed and agility to dance around her opponent and get in hits. However, this gives her very little in terms of variation. Now, true, she can use the spinning bird kick, axe kick, and whatnot, as mentioned in the analysis. However, this is only slight variations on the fighting style itself. It's no real difference, and in time, it can get very predictable. Now, add in the fact that her ki projectile is slow and limited range, and you have some additional weaknesses to Chun-Li's fighting style in particular. Now, if we compare Mai Shiranui's arsenal, even though she was stated to be a little slower and less durable than Chun-Li, she still has the advantage in her punches, kicks, and whatnot, due to the fact that she has those steel fans to aid her in her strikes, which can also cut and burn if she were to use the steel edge or the pyrokinesis or both. Furthermore, those fans can be thrown as projectiles with much longer range, much faster, and her fake-outs and variable range combat give her more versatility than Chun-Li. So, the Wizard's statement that says that Chun-Li's arsenal pales in comparison to Mai's is actually true from a statistical point of view. In the end, the main defining feature as to why Mai Shiranui was able to defeat Chun-Li boils down to one important factor, and that is tactics. That's right, Mai Shiranui won because she fought smart. Now, before anyone begins to argue against that point, keep in mind of what Boomstick said in the end. He said specifically that Chun-Li's straightforward approach was a bad matchup against Mai Shiranui's ninja training, which is exactly true, and people tend to forget that Mai is a ninja. During the battle, Mai realized that Chun-Li's ki energy was limited and short range, so she was able to get in the first few hits. When she realized that close combat was not favorable with Chun-Li, she got some distance and used her fans in order to pin her down and get in another few hits. Her first fake-out didn't work, but her second one did, which caused Chun-Li to keep on guessing. And finally, she led Chun-Li up into the trees. Why? Because she knew that Chun-Li's limited range ki would not be able to reach her, and Chun-Li would have no choice but to follow her. That is how a ninja works. They use strategy against their opponent. They don't use brute force. And unfortunately, Chun-Li's straightforward approach and close in combat was a bad matchup toward Mai's ninja training. Now, in the end, Mai Shiranui simply used the same tactics that all video game players use in these fighting games, and that's simply to work your strengths around your opponent's weaknesses. And you can't blame Mai Shiranui for doing just that. Unfortunately for Chun-Li, the only tactics she could rely on with her close-range combat and her limited-range projectiles is either to jump in and use her speed to overwhelm her opponent, which, by the way, leaves her wide open to counterattacks, or she can simply wait. She can only wait until her opponent goes in and makes a mistake. However, Mai Shiranui wasn't going to play that game. She took control of the battle. She showed that she can defeat Chun-Li using all of her skills plus strategy, so that in the end allowed her to get the win. Now, all the Chun-Li fans out there will continually argue over that Chun-Li was supposed to have won that fight, but in the end, I do agree with Boomstick and Wizard's analysis. Without any player input whatsoever, no outside help, and using only the skills, tactics, and information that is available to both characters, the death battle did play out as accurately as it could have been played out. Now, in the end, yes, I do have a fondness more for Mai Shiranui than for Chun-Li, but I do try to look at this death battle in the most objective way possible without any fanboyism or favoritism toward it. And that is something everyone should just keep in mind. And as I stated before, please do not take this death battle or any other death battle seriously. It is simply meant for entertainment only. And don't worry if your favorite character does get killed, because in death battle, it will not change the characters themselves nor anything in their own series at all. And once again, I'd like to say that I mean no offense whatsoever toward any of the viewers who disagree with my views or my analysis of the death battles. And in the end, this is all just for fun, and I certainly had a lot of fun myself analyzing this death battle and bringing up my own conclusions about it. And so I close this death battle analysis and urge everyone who enjoy watching this series to continue supporting this series, and I hope to see the next one. Until then, thank you very much then.